Alright, so I'm just going to quickly try to go over like a little bit of what I do in my workflow for doing character animations. Um, so all I have here is I have my AKS74U set up from uh, this is what I was doing my tutorial with. Uh, so I just have it in the character example file and I slapped the rifle pose on it. That's all I did. I also hid some of the uh, extra Rigify bones that I don't plan on using. Um, so yeah, what I normally do when looking to do, so I'm probably going to do like a rack bolt animation here, just to kind of quickly show what I was talking about in Discord earlier. So you can see my weapon is not attached to anything. Everything is free floating. Um, so normally what I do is I use this add-on Dynamic Parent, and I'm going to select my uh, prop R bone, and I'm going to then select the hand IK, and I'm going to hit create. Um, so now that that's created, uh, me moving my weapon will just move the right hand with it. I'm going to do the same for the left hand. Hit create there, and if you go to the bone constraints, you'll see it creates um, the child of constraint for you. This is just a good, easy way to like manage where it's at. So now that I've done that for both, um, I can move my weapon, and it's going to move my character's hands accordingly. And then an added bonus is if we go over, sorry, I did not configure this. I'm also not in the animation mode. That would be why. Um, I created those constraints. It created an action for me. I'll just call this rack bolt. Um, and then one of the benefits of doing I don't think this is specific to using dynamic parent, but what I like to do is I will keyframe everything off the start, and then I can move this hand wherever I want it. Let's actually go up to frame 5 and do it there. I can move this hand wherever I want it. Let's keyframe it here, and if I go back and select my weapon, that hand will move in the new position, just but still attached to the same space as the weapon itself. So I'll just try to kind of quickly get a hand animation going with this. Okay, so you can see um, when I go to my rig, I've just kind of created an animation where we're moving up to the, and I'm just going to also keyframe all those fingers so that I don't lose that. Um, we go from just kind of grabbing the rifle there, and we're going to go up and hook a finger around the bolt. Um, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my weapon armature, and I'm going to create an action for this. I'll usually call it like weapon rack bolt. And you can see as I move the timeline, the character armature is still going to move, and I can now add keyframes for my weapon, and it will be in sync. So we'll just do a base, and then we know at around 10 I'm going to want that weapon bolt to start moving. So going to grab the bolt, and then I'm going to keyframe here, and then we can even hide the character if we want. In about 5 frames, we'll pull it back, and I'll keyframe it here. So that seems good, like a good speed. Just give myself more real estate. Keyframe it there. I want it to stay back there for like 3 frames. No. Maybe 10 frames. And then I want it to snap back to its origin in about 3 frames. I want it to come forward a lot harder. There we go. So that's, you know, you tweak the timing and stuff like that, but that looks decent for what I'm trying to achieve. Now I can go back to my character rig. Oh, back to my character rig, and then I will just adjust this hand so that we follow it. We know it was frame 15, we go all the way to the back, and so I'm just going to pull this back also until we go just kind of around where it was at. So there you go. I know this doesn't look amazing, but you can, this is just kind of a gist of what I'm talking about. So we pull that back, and then we know at 10 frames from here it's going to release forward and snap forward, and then I will just do a very simple release animation. Yeah, by the time it releases, so then we'll just go up, 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 and of course I forgot to keyframe those, so at 25 I want you there, you're good, and then you, I want you there. So it should just kind of release it. So yeah, this is what I was kind of talking about with like, okay, it's going to be rigid, but now to get that natural movement in like the weapon itself, you can see everything, you know, we're pretty consistent, like we follow the bolt pretty well. Now I can go to the weapon, and let's say when we go back, I'm going to extend this further just a little bit, and when we go back, I want the gun to kind of kick back a little bit, and you see how the hands and everything followed with it. So I'm trying to keyframe now that motion of like, we've pulled the bolt back and the gun's gonna follow with it, but my hands are constrained to the weapon space. My hands are constrained to the object space of this bone. So now I get to just kind of play with the physics of what the hands manipulating the weapon should do. And to me, it's a little bit easier. I'm not trying to constrain this hand to the actual weapon bolt bone. I don't necessarily need to worry about that now. I've already kind of timed that up, and those keyframes should follow. I mean, I can pull this weapon. We can even, you know, turn it sideways as we do it, and it'll follow it. It'll move with the rotation, because again, these hands are constrained to that weapon bone. So whatever that bone does, these hands should follow too. And I've had success without having to bake or anything. Of just when I'm done with this animation, exporting it, and it should follow and show in game. Um, and yeah, to me it's just a little bit easier because now I only have to worry about um, the movement of this weapon and not all these other factors. So, we wanted to. Sometimes I like to throw a cursor back here and then move from the 3D cursor. We're gonna add some kick up. So now the gun is, wow, we kind of pull it back and it goes up onto the shoulder. You can just play around with the animation from there, but that's usually how I like to do it. I like to get, again, that weapon manipulation, get that done while the weapon's completely stationary, and then go and start to animate this right hand prop bone, because now I don't have to worry about all these other things lining up. They'll just follow accordingly. So I can try to load up some examples and show you. Okay, so this is a pretty good example of what I was talking about. This is the bolt animation that I did for RHS's M40. You can see here I've disabled all movement of the prop bone, and you can see I just worked on animating this hand to move in a very natural way in terms of like the weapon space. And this I'm pretty happy with this animation, so that's why I wanted to show it, because it's not as jank as the one I was just quickly throwing together before. I'm pretty happy with how this animation turned out, and I worried about just, okay, what's this hand going to look like while it's manipulating the bolt, and make sure that looks good. Then on top of that, I'll re-enable all this. I like to actually use the graph editor to get a lot of smooth motion in between it, but I've added back in the movement for the prop bone. You can see without this, this gun is completely stationary. It's not moving. It's not doing anything. And then I would go in and keyframe. Okay, well, how does me manipulating the bolt of the weapon? How would the weapon react to me doing that? And so then you get all this extra movement. And again, I don't have to worry about lining up the hands as I move all that stuff. Those hands aren't parented to the actual weapon armature. They're parented just to this prop bone so that anytime the weapon moves, it'll stay within the weapon space. So yeah, I really hope that is somewhat clarifying what I was saying before. And yeah, hopefully this is somewhat helpful.